Dear delegates of IEEMA, I would first like to begin by sincerely apologizing to all of you for not being able to be with you today. I was scheduled to be spending time with you, and I was really looking forward to our conversation when Vijay Karia, who I am proud to call one of my close friends and supporter, told me that he would like me to attend the IEEMA annual conclave. I was really looking forward to it because I really rarely get a chance to go out of the newsroom, and I told Vijay that it would be a great opportunity for me to meet people outside my own profession. And in fact, I was looking forward to a longer and more informal interaction with all of you. Unfortunately, I have been asked to attend a global media news conference in Moscow, and therefore I would most humbly begin by apologizing to all of you for not being able to be with you personally. Well, I hope you can't do everything on looking at a camera. But as I'm looking at this camera, I'm reminded of what I was told when I started my career. I was told I was very nervous the first time I faced a camera and I was asked to anchor something or say something. I was told by one of my seniors in the profession, just look at the camera and remember you're talking to one person. So today, as I'm looking at this camera, I'm looking at each one of you out there and hoping that some of what I say reaches your heart and makes sense to you. I hope some of you watch my program. I hope you follow the news hour. And I hope that at the end of our conversation today, I will continue to have your support and your friendship. But first, to my dear friend Vijay Karia, and to all the members and senior delegates and executive committee members of the IEEMA. And I know there is a very, very august group of people who are meeting at the Imperial Hotel. I know there will be hundreds of professionals from the electrical industry. My sincerest apologies for not being with you. I want to talk to you today about what I do and why I do what I do. But before I begin my conversation with you today, I'll run a small clip so that we can have a little throwback on what I have done. So may I just request if we can play out a small clip which will carry some glimpses of the work I have done, and then perhaps I'll take this conversation forward. Breaking news right now. We have a description of the terrorists for the first time here on Times Now. The first clear eyewitness account of one of those who actually escaped the Oberoi Hotel.
I'm British.
So you were quite scared at the fact that they asked you, give me a British passport like that, and that's when you were?
Yeah, they wanted British.
There were some reports on some other news channels that the death toll could be much, 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 much higher. We do not believe here in preempting tragedy in order to bring exclusive news at a time like this, and we stand by that.
Taking of legal action, including defamation, on Times Now.
Are you saying that you have created a system where everybody else except you will be responsible for it?
No, I'm saying that all those responsible for it will be taken into task.
There's a chief minister, the former union minister, all of whom have got apartments that should have gone to families of Kargil war victims.
Mr. Prime Minister, you say you have to make compromises. There can't be any compromise with corruption.
No.
And there cannot be a compromise even if you're running a coalition government. My specific question to you on the Devas ISRO deal is this. There are people who are in the know about a scam of a deal. They delayed action in the deal. And they continued some backroom talks, and we were told these talks are normal. Mr. Prime Minister, is it normal to continue backroom talks with a blacklisted company in a scam like this?
There have been no backroom talks. I think I have not met anybody myself.
Mr. Prime Minister, the talks were not with you, but by people, within your office. Do you buy the zero loss claim in the 2G scam?
No,
and you promise.
Goswami, please don't. This is not an interrogation of the Prime Minister. Please.
I am a well-wisher of the Kochi team, but I have no direct involvement.
Tharoor has been forced to quit as the first openly tainted UPM minister.
Mumbai Crime Branch have confirmed to Times Now that the voice samples they had sent to the Forensic Science Laboratory indeed belong to Gurunath Mayappan.
Is it not shocking when the board president's son-in-law
And a key functionary in one of the teams is also indulging in
I'm not here on the stand to answer why you said this, why you didn't say this. No. Fact is, I stepped aside.
You went aside, but you went down kicking and shouting.
I don't know how long I'm going to continue this interview because this is not an interview.
Do you know the case? Do you know the case history? It's very important.
Mr. Titler, do not try to be aggressive with me. Don't try to patronize me.
No.
Don't try to lecture me. I am told that you are avoiding a television debate with Mr. Fulka.
Oh my God! I'm prepared to take a debate, and I say you should be in Delhi and you conduct this debate.
So, Mr. Titler, so here's Mr. Fulka.
Yeah.
Mr. Fulka is live with us tonight.
No.
No, don't say now you don't want to debate with Mr.
separately.
Fulka.
No.
Why are you avoiding it now?
I want you.
Did the Sikh riots take place in Delhi? Absolutely. Were they completely wrong? Absolutely.
Were congressmen involved?
Did innocent people die? Absolutely.
Were congressmen involved?
Some congressmen probably were involved.
In that case, why don't you apologize for the 1984 riots?
First of all, I wasn't involved in the riots at all. I mean, it wasn't that I was part of it.
On behalf of your party?
Frankly, I was not in operation in the Congress party.
You have yourself admitted that the Jamaat-ud-Dawa and the Lashkar-e-Toiba are terror groups. How do they then operate with complete impunity on Pakistani soil?
Can you take action against your own extremists and terrorists in Bombay?
They were sent from Pakistan.
Can you do that?
As you are fully aware, General Musharraf, they were sent by a coward called Hafiz Saeed in Pakistan who's operating with impunity. When will this India obsession end?
When will Pakistan obsession end in India?
When you stop exporting terror and beheading our soldiers. This new email puts a fresh light on the high-impact coverage of the biggest news story of 2015.
You're writing to Lalit Modi saying you've spoken to Sushma Swaraj.
She's replied to us. She said, Lalit Modi spoke to me that his wife was suffering from cancer.
She gave the okay because a consent was required.
These are pictures of him. He's certainly not attending to his wife. Sushma Swaraj should have recused herself, saying, my husband is part of Lalit Modi's team.
मेरे पति ललित मोदी के पासपोर्ट केस में वकील नहीं थे.
Obfuscation, history lessons.
सुषमा जी दुनिया में पहली ह्यूमैनिटेरियन है जो छुपकर ह्यूमैनिटेरियन काम करती है.
The country wants to see a debate. Let's give a 150-minute rehearsed performance and let's tomorrow move on.
मैं चाह रही थी कि संसद में खड़े होकर जवाब दूं. जो कहते हैं ना, nation wants to know. मेरा राष्ट्र यहाँ है.
Are you convinced with what you've witnessed? This is the clearest case of quid pro quo that I have ever encountered.
She just gave the statement.
To the Bharatiya Janata Party, we are showing you the full signed statement.
Will you be stepping down?
Do you think she's in a position to continue as the CM? Ma'am, did you write a letter of support for Lalit Modi?
Rajesh, there are charges against you. The smaller thing about the Vasundhara Raje Scindia, you had given her a clean sheet.
You know there is one channel who Vasundhara Raje cannot answer, and that is Times Now. The End VVIP Raj campaign has become a national movement. What special qualifications does a VIP have that he must be entitled to a golf cart at the airport, while this mother stands there screaming and crying so that a specially able child can commute, and these politicians drive past without giving them a second look?
We've created a ruckus. Nobody listens. Things don't change. It's become an excuse. VIP treatment has become an excuse.
It has to be happened. They have to bear it.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Do you ask somebody to get out? Do you ask somebody I disagree with you? I say get out. An IPS officer is not your personal slave who has an obligation to sit and stand as per your directions. आप कौन होते हैं ये कहने के लिए बैठिए उठिए निकल जाइए?
आप पर एक्विजिशन है कि गोंडवाना में आपने ट्रेन को रुकवाया था. उमा जी ट्रेन को रुकवाया था.
They were debarred because VVIP, the CM of Maharashtra, was about to exit the club.
This 23-year-old woman who has stood on the bonnet of your brother's car, Achal, is a representative of the young woman who is fed up and tired of politicians like your brother.
मारते हुए ये कौन सी तमीज है? जब प्रशासन ये काम करेगा तो जनता क्या करेगी?
VIP पब्लिक को हैरान कर रहे हैं.
मैंने अपने भैया बाप को तड़पते देखा अपनी आंखों से.
Why was Muhammad Akhlaq lynched?
Crowd first attacked Akhlaq's 80-year-old mother, then attacked his wife.
After the lynching of Muhammad Akhlaq in this Bisara village of Dadri, there was chaos, pandemonium, there was an overflow of noise, and then sudden silence.
हिंदू मुस्लिम सांप्रदायिकता ये सब तो नेताओं का अपनी राजनीति चमकाना और इन लोगों के सामने.
The politics over cow meat trumps the value of a human life. What position will you take?
All I want to see is that why they sabotaged the anti-ban bill.
Why counter the argument, Asaduddin Owaisi, about beef with one of pork? Why counter the argument of beef with one of alcohol? You, sitting in the News Hour studio, have given a religious spin to an issue which you began by saying is an economic one.
You talk about your culture. What about our feelings over here?
So
why do you bring it? Why do you?
According to me, if it is something which is banned, people should raise their voice.
You're not delivering on governance. You're not delivering on inflation. They want to discuss whether you should eat meat in Mumbai for 3 days or 4 days, or whether you should eat beef in Jammu and Kashmir.
Please concentrate towards the development of youth and not just the bans and things like that.
You know, wherever you're watching tonight, politicians have realized that these bans are going to be counterproductive because you have decided against them.
We cannot just have fun here when our soldiers are fighting for us.
Political issue को इससे संगीत से या कल्चर से नहीं जोड़ना चाहिए.
ये ड्रामा देशभक्ति का अचानक बहुत पुराना हो चुका है. How come he's okay with Rahat Fateh Ali but not okay with Ghulam Ali?
I told Uddhav Thackeray yesterday that we respect your right to protest peacefully, but you respect our right to hold the program.
इंडिया के बहुत से लोग आते हैं पाकिस्तान में, किसी को बैन तो नहीं किया जाता. आपके म्यूजिशियंस भी आते हैं.
How can you have a balanced view on the blackening of a man's face? How does smearing Sudhindra Kulkarni's face halt the Pakistani terrorists infiltrating to India? Have you watched James Bond?
मैंने बिल्कुल नहीं देखी है फिल्म.
अब देखा ही नहीं है मूवी.
जी मैं चेयरमैन जरूर हूँ, लेकिन फिल्म देखना मेरा काम नहीं है.
You are defending the cuts of the two intimate scenes in this Bond film which you are saying you have never seen.
बिल्कुल नहीं.
Why are you defending the cuts? आपके फिल्म्स क्लियर हो जाएंगे मगर जेम्स बॉन्ड का क्लियर नहीं होगा.
अगर मैं गलत था, आज मैंने रियलाइज कर दिया.
Oh, now you've realized.
नहीं, रियलाइज एज.
What have you realized?
एज के साथ में आदमी चेंज हो जाता है.
So with age you are becoming संस्कारी.
अरे whatever, I was a संस्कारी from the beginning.
तो भाई आप एक बात बताइए, आपने संस्कार को इंडिया के यंगर जनरेशन पर आप थोप क्यों रहे?
The journalism of speaking out. The journalism for a new India. Times now.
Thank you for watching that clip, and I hope some of those moments we played in that clip bring back some recollections and some memories to all of you at the Ieema conference, because at the end of the day, I hope many of you are our viewers. You know, it has been a great honor for me to witness a transformation in the Indian news industry over the last 10 years. I left NDTV in 2004 at a time when people felt there was one form of journalism and one channel, and the English language reached out to a certain set of audiences, a very limited audience, in a certain way. Essentially, I was told that English is a very, super elite language in India, and you can never reach the heart of Indians through the medium called English. That was in 2004-2005. Today, we are nearing the end of 2015. I can confidently tell you that today, very few people will say the same thing. Very few people will come out and say today that English is a super elite language through which you cannot reach the heart of Indians. Because I think somewhere through the journalism that we have done, the stories that we have put out, and the manner in which we put these stories, we have reached the hearts of Indians. We have made people watch, not compel them to watch. We have made them choose to watch. Through our journalism, which has put people first, we have somewhere been able to win people's confidence again. We have removed the SAP, CD, astrology, world is coming to an end kind of journalism that was going on in the Hindi television news industry, and replaced it with the CWG scam, 2G scam, Devas ISRO scam, the exposés on corruption, followed by the coverage of Anna Hazare, the 2611 coverage, and then our relentless focus on making political reporting directed in such a way that it forces accountability among the people who rule us, All of this, these changes that we have brought have won audiences back. Today when I go out at an airport or in a public event, I find people from the ages of 9 to 90 who are watching Times Now. Small children come up to me and say, "Uncle, this is what you said yesterday, we remember that." We get appreciated and of course criticized by more people today than we were 10 years back. And I know somewhere that there has been great traction and churn as far as the news industry is concerned. Somewhere, for the first time, we have really brought back the one word which defines journalism and the one thing that I live for every single day as a journalist, and that word is just credibility. We have brought back some credibility into the profession. And in that entire journey, I owe a debt of gratitude to all our viewers across the country. 10 years back, 12 years back, there was one day when I was made to go and apologize to a politician who was a minister and say sorry to him. He was the then law minister, Ramakant Khalap. Say sorry to him because I'd asked him a tough question as a reporter standing outside gate number 4 of Parliament. Today, I can confidently tell you nobody will ever tell a reporter who's asked a tough question to go and apologize. Certainly not a reporter working in my News Hour and Times Now team. That for me is the credibility of this profession of journalism. This profession is a great profession. If we use the basic tenets of this profession well, we can play a transformative role in our society and in our country. Having said that, what is at the root of this entire profession? At the root of this profession is simply the freedom of expression. As a journalist, for me, freedom of expression is all that I have. It is dear to me because it has allowed me to change the existing rules of journalism. The journalism that we saw, the journalism that you saw a decade ago, and the new journalism of today, the journalism we represent, is actually, literally, and discernibly different. The journalism of 2015 raises issues concerning the people. It exposes scams more relentlessly than ever before. It allows you to look at a politician in the eye, which you could not have done before. So I just want to ask you 10 questions, wherever you're watching this today, and I know sitting in that conference, I may not be able to communicate with you as directly and as personally as I would if I was sitting with you face to face. But I thought that perhaps I would begin by asking all of you, what journalism would you rather have? Would you have the journalism of 2005 or would you have the journalism of 2015? And to take that conversation forward, I'd ask one more question. If I take away 10 things that I reported with my team, if I just take it away and if we were to imagine that these 10 events had never happened in this country, would we have been a better country or a worse country? So these are my questions to you. I wish I could hear the answers as well. Unfortunately, today I'm distant from you and I'm not hearing your response. But I hope as I ask these questions, you think yourself of what your possible answer would be. My first question to you would be that would we be a better country or a worse country if we had not uncovered scams worth hundreds of crores of rupees? Would we be a better country or a worse country if none of these scams had ever been exposed? Suppose, to take the conversation forward, I were to say, suppose in the end of June 2010, we had not exposed the Commonwealth Games scam. And had we not exposed it and there hadn't been a series of scams that were broken in succession between 2005 and 2010, would we have been a better country or a worse country had all of this never actually been reported? Had the Prime Minister not done a press conference? Had Manmohan Singh never had to actually go out there and say that there is something called the compulsions of coalition politics? Had Suresh Kalmadi retained his job, had A. Raja not been made to resign, had Dayanidhi Maran not been affected, had none of those scams been unearthed, would we have been a better country or a worse country? My second question to you is this, and I'm not, the problem is on the News Hour, they say about me that I often ask the question and answer it myself, which is a bad habit because I get very involved in the course of the discussion. So I won't answer that question. I leave that as food for thought for you. My second question to you would be, would we be a better country or a worse country had we, my team and the rest of the media, not made a big deal about the Muzaffarnagar riots? Had we not questioned a top politician celebrating a grand festival graced by Bollywood's biggest stars in sci-fi, as the victims of the riots suffered in camps and were there and children were there in the biting cold, and children were dying on the one side in the cold of January 2014, and on the other a politician was celebrating and Salman Khan was dancing to his tune at an event in Sci-Fi. You know I'm talking about what Mulayam Singh Yadav was doing in his birthday celebrations, as opposed to the way in which thousands of refugees who had suffered because and been dislocated as a result of the Muzaffarnagar riots, the conditions in which they were living in the relief camps. Now, had we not gone out there and asked those tough questions, had we not forced accountability, had we not made the politicians feel embarrassed about the fact that they were having a great time while the victims of the riots, who they are meant to be accountable for, were suffering in that manner, in inhuman and cruel conditions, had we not been relentless and forceful in our reporting, would we have been a better country or a worse country? This question is something that I am asking you. My third question to you is this: would we be a better country or a worse country? And I'm picking specific examples as I'm talking to you. Would we be a better country or a worse country had so much noise not been made about a 5-6-year-old boy called Prince who was stuck in a borewell, a manhole that was meant to be covered by the government? I want to tell you about this story because it means a lot to me. In 1996, I was a reporter in Delhi. And I was working in NDTV, and my news editor Appan Menon called me and he said that, Arnab, I want you to report on a story. And I asked Appan what the story is. And Appan told me that Arnab, outside a school in South Delhi, I don't know whether it's a Tagore International School or another school, but it wasn't very far from the NDTV office. He said there is a child who has fallen into a manhole. And I want you to go and report on the story. And I knew that manhole was supposed to be covered by the government, but I had gone and told Appan that, Appan, I will not report on the story. And Appan asked me why. And I told Appan, as a 22-year-old reporter in NDTV, I said, Appan, I don't want to report this story because this is not what I want to report. So Appan asked me, Arnab, what is it that you want to report? And I told Appan, I want to report politics, I want to report economics, I want to report foreign policy, I will even report the Planning Commission, but I will not report this story. He said, why? I said, because it's a soft story. And he told me, he looked me and he said, you know, giving a cynical smile, which I understand today, he said that the day will come when you will realize that this is not a soft story. This is not a small story. The story of a child falling into a manhole because that manhole was not covered by the government is not a small story. It is the heart of the story. It is a hard story. It is a story which you need to report because you need to magnify it. Unless the media magnifies these stories get wasted and they don't appear on any news list of any big channel. That was 1996 when we were doing a show called The News Tonight. And I was a reporter for that show. That show was being shown on DD Metro. That was 1996. Now, 10 years passed, and in 2006, after Times Now had been launched, we went through a period when the channel not just failed, but completely failed. In that period, when the channel had failed, I got a call from the newsroom one day, and one of my news editors told me that a 6-year-old child, 5-6-year-old child has fallen into a borewell, an open manhole, in Kurukshetra in Haryana, and that child's name is Prince. And he followed it up by saying that we are not covering the story. And I asked him, why aren't we covering the story? And he said, we're not covering the story because it is, in his words, a Hindi channel type of story. It made me think. You see, we also in journalism describe things in super elitist ways. At least we used to, now we don't. Something is a Hindi channel story, something is an English channel story. And I asked him, why is it a Hindi channel story? He said, because, you know, it's happened in the Hindi heartland, it's happened in a semi-rural area, etc., etc. But the fact of the matter was that had it been a politician or a bureaucrat's child, we would not have called it a Hindi channel story. We would have covered the story. But we were being contemptuous about it. For 5 days after that, for 5 non-stop days, we covered nothing but the story of Prince. The entire agony of what Prince was going through in that 48 to 72 hours period when he was stuck in a barely 2.5 feet of space, 60 feet below the ground. The whole country watched it, and when we asked, we split the screen and we said, is this the limit of government apathy? That in this country a child is fighting for his life, falling into a borewell that the government is meant to cover. When after that ordeal Prince came out, and there is that one shot, we can play it as we speak right now. There's that one shot when Prince comes out. And as Prince comes out, he's being picked up. I think it was an army man who was picking him up, taking him out, and the whole country was waiting to hear what was happening to Prince. And when eventually the person came out from the army and I think made the announcement that Prince was alive, the whole newsroom started weeping and crying. And I will never forget that moment. Because for me, some people say Prince was an example of sensationalist media. I tell them that this is the example of the changing media. It is an example of the new media. It is an example of the media that puts people first. It is an example of the media that no longer defines things in terms of English channel story and Hindi channel story. So that is the transformative period. For me, that was a very important episode, because it brings me to the core of what we've done in this profession. For the first time, we are exercising our rights as journalists in a free democracy. We've been a democracy, but we've never exercised our right as journalists till very, very recently. So my question to you would be, and I'm sorry if I'm taking too much time, would we be a better country or a worse country had we made not so much noise about a boy stuck in a borewell? I can tell you, the answer is there in your mind. We wouldn't have been a better country had these stories not been reported. Then the question is this: would we be a better country or a worse country had a man named Akhlaq had his death, his murder, not become a raging debate on fundamentalism and tolerance? And you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a 50-year-old man called Muhammad Akhlaq, who was beaten to death with his 22-year-old son severely injured, and only because there were rumors that his family was storing and consuming beef. It doesn't matter whether rumors were true or false. The fact is, nobody can be killed on the basis of what that person eats. And therefore, when we relentlessly went after that issue, I know that certain right-wingers, some people did not like it. But if anyone tells me that because you went after that story, we've become a worse country, I will not accept it. Similarly, would we be a better country or a worse country had a party called the Shiva Sena not been unequivocally criticized for their ink attack on Sudhindra Kulkarni? So much so harshly did we criticize them. And I didn't criticize them sitting in Delhi. I criticized them sitting in my office and my studio in Kamala Mills in the heart of Delhi, what people say Shiva Sena territory. We criticized them from Mumbai. And I feel proud that my team does not care, does not have fear or favor of where the pressure is going to come from, because I tell them that you are free. You are journalists only once in your lifetime. Be free as you exercise your rights as journalists. Let there be freedom in your expression. Which is why I began by saying freedom of expression is all I have. So my fourth question, and I'm wrapping up questions, would we be a better country or a worse country had a party called the Shiva Sena not been torn apart for their ink attack on Sudhindra Kulkarni? You can disagree with Sudhindra Kulkarni, but you can't do what you did with Sudhindra Kulkarni at that point of time. My fifth question is largely very broad. Would we be a better country or a worse country if, with tremendous energy, with total honesty, and if I may candidly accept before you today, with a fair amount of noise, and I know my critics criticize me because we have noise on our program. Let those people realize that in this country, if you don't raise your voice, then nobody really cares for what you are about to say. Hence, you need to look deep at the content of what we say and not just the form in which we put it through. Had we not asked all these questions with tremendous energy, passion, and honesty, would we be a better country or a worse country? I don't want to take credit for transforming the way journalism has been done today. But since I have this opportunity to speak to you, and I'm speaking to you candidly, honestly, and without any preparation, we have changed the rules of the game of journalism. We have. I'm not apologetic about it. People told me in 1995, when I entered this profession, do anything you want to, but never express your opinion. I have broken that fundamental rule, because in a choice between right and wrong, between black and white, between good and bad, between honest and false, you can't stand in the middle and say that I am neutral. So in that sense, by challenging the premise of that kind of neutrality, I have changed the rules of journalism. And I have changed it because I derive my right to speak not from some politician, but from the Constitution of India. And I derive it from Article 19(1) of the Constitution of India. It is not a gift but my right. It is a gift, 19(1), which I have used but never abused, one that I have used to question the fundamental flaws in our political systems, in our institutions, and even in our journalism. And this is something I want to share with you at a personal level. The last point that I want to raise is this, and I know that there are many people around you who know the system, the establishment better than I do. In fact, I have now practiced the art of keeping a distance from the establishment because it allows me neutrality. It allows me not to be influenced by the people who I'm reporting on, and hence I don't socialize very often with the people who I report on. But I want to appeal to you to support the new journalism. I want to appeal to you in whichever way you can, and you are all influential people in your own way, to support the new journalism and reject the old journalism. To support it in whichever way that you can. Because this journalism is necessary for this country. This journalism resides on one fundamental rule, that the journalist and the politician cannot cohabit. Their nature of the job of a journalist and the job of a politician are in direct conflict and necessarily contrarian. But the onus of drawing the line lies on the journalist. It is the credibility of journalism at stake, the independence of reporting at stake, and the independence of our profession which is often at stake. And I want to end with one quote which I hope you relate to. Someone asked me, what is the basic rule of journalism? When anyone asks me, what is the basic rule of journalism? First thing I say is, there should be no rules. Journalism should be exercised in free speech and expression. You should not be influenced by anything. But if there is something that for me symbolizes what journalism is, it is this. And I quote, journalism can never be silent. That is its greatest virtue, and that is also its greatest fault. It must speak, and it must speak immediately, while the echoes of wonder, the claims of triumph, and the signs of horror are still in the air. It cannot speak later, when the incident has happened. So today, for all the criticism that the media receives, for its cacophonic and breathless reporting, one must remember that making a noise about an issue that is just and factually accurate is actually the media's basic responsibility. And the media that fails to make a noise, a media that fails to challenge the establishment, would be doing a great disservice, not just to the profession, but also to democracy itself, whose custodians we are. Once again, I thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to address you. I am deeply sorry for not being with you today in person. I warmly would welcome you into my small studio in Lower Parel, and I hope that I get to meet some of you face to face. But for today, with my sincerest regrets for not being among you today, thank you very much for letting me address you in any case. Thank you. It's a great honor. Thank you very much.